Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Walt here from Down the Block Sports, and today I want to talk about Kris Bryant and the Chicago Cubs. If you were to tell me about 2-3 weeks ago that the Chicago Cubs went to the trade deadline having to trade Kris Bryant after the first half, for the most part, of the season they had, I'd be like, you're crazy. The team's in first place. They can't trade Kris Bryant. Well, guess what? It's July 7th, and the Cubs are now in fourth place in the National League Central. The last couple weeks for the Cubs have been awful. Awful. Right now they are 42-40. They've lost 11 consecutive games. They went from first to fourth, so they have 3 teams to jump if they want to do something, and that team at the top is 9 games ahead of them in the division. And when you look at the state of the National League Central, if you don't win that division, you're probably not going to the playoffs. So at 42-44, it's going to be a near miracle for the Chicago Cubs to turn this thing around and win this division, earn a wild card spot, make it to the playoffs. And, you know, with Kris Bryant, Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, star players like that, having deals expire at the end of this year, at 42-40, the Cubs have to move on to these guys. So Kris Bryant, the all-star, who's going to be representing the Cubs with Craig Kimbrell, who also could get traded in a couple days. What I'm going to talk about today is 5 teams in Major League Baseball that should call the Cubs right now and acquire that all-star third baseman outfield. You can put them in multiple spots. So again, I'm Alec Walt. This is Down the Block Sports. And today we're talking about Kris Bryant and his future home in a couple weeks. At number 5, at this team I had much earlier at the beginning of the season, but they've been playing so poor that I dropped them in the list because I'm not fully sold if they're going to make a trade or not. So bear with me. It's the Braves. Now, the Braves have all the talent. Yes, they're missing some pitching, but, man, they're 41-44, but they're still not that far back in their division. I mean, the Mets are only, 5 games ahead of them? And the weird thing about the Braves is they haven't been above 500 this year. They had the chance to do it this weekend against the Pirates, but are about to possibly get swept. And when you look at this team, I mean, yes, Marcell Ozuna was arrested, who it's really affected this order. Some of their lineup depth really hasn't been there. They're relying on guys like Orlando Arcia and Ender Inciarte in that other corner outfield spot who really haven't been that productive offensively. The real question, this is why I have it at number 5, is should the Braves make a trade knowing they're in this spot in their division? I think they should because they still have Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna Jr. They have the talent on the team. Yes, they should maybe be focusing on the pitching end, but I mean, if you're not putting up runs against the Pirates, your offense is not very good. Now, if you go into the second half of the season, a little less because you're trading him at the deadline, and you go Acuna, Albies, Freeman, Bryant, that's pretty nasty. And if you're going to stay alive in this division, you have to make a move like a Bryant to do something. Now, I may mention a few more teams in the National League East later in this video, but the Braves are not playing good baseball right now. The Braves are not hitting right now. They're getting very little offensive production out of their corner outfield spot. Now, at third base, they do have Austin Riley, who does have outfield versatility, so Bryant could move a few times here and there for the Braves, and his versatility is definitely going to help him on the trade market. But the Braves have to do something because they are massively underperforming. Their lineup is not showing up. Will Bryant really change something? I think he could. I mean, the Nationals are a team ahead of them who aren't a very good offensive team. Yes, they do have the starting pitching if it's healthy. And then the Mets are obviously the Mets, who you're going to hear very soon. But at 5, I'm still going to keep an eye on the Braves. I'm not fully sold yet that they're completely going to sell, but they need a bat, and I think Bryant would massively help the middle of this order. At number 4, I'm going to go to San Francisco, the biggest surprise in Major League Baseball. Yes, the Giants are a team that's going to be fighting with teams like the Giants and the Dodgers and the Padres all season. And when you look at the Dodgers, they're starting to get Bellinger and Betts back. They still have 50-plus wins, and everyone's telling us they're having a down season. They're about to explode. The Padres are still one of the better teams in the National League. They definitely are going to be a buyer based on the direction they've been making moves this entire offseason. The Giants have to make a couple moves if they want to remain alive in this division. Now, I'm very impressed with the way Gabe Kapler's been managing this team. I've been surprised with some of those role players who really stepped up and taken a solid role in this team. But they got guys like Alex Dickerson in the corner outfield doing injuries at third baseman right now with Evan Longoria, who is expected back. But, if you want to make some impact in this lineup, you want someone with playoff experience, someone who has experience playing those high-pressure games late in the season against quality division opponents. I think Kris Bryant makes a lot of sense because I think he fits in here very well. The Giants have a very deep farm system, so they can make a trade and not completely kill them. It keeps them alive in the division. It gets someone experienced, fits the mold. I think the Giants would be a fantastic location for him. Now, it'll be interesting to see what the Giants do next week, but if they go into – I have a lot of respect for what the Giants have done this year. But if they go after the deadline with the Dodgers and Padres expected to make a move without making a move, I think they're going to disappear in this division. I do. And it hurts me to say that because I've been saying that it'll eventually happen to the Giants, and it hasn't yet. But with Betts and Bellinger back in this lineup for the Dodgers, if you're remaining a half a game to a game above them, it's going to disappear in a week or two. It's going to happen. And I still want to give them a lot of credit for what they've done, but they got to make a move. And I think getting someone with playoff experience in the middle of this order makes a ton of sense. Get Kris Bryant far, and I think he'd be a fantastic fit in this order and in your outfield. At number 3, this team would be the best offensive team in baseball if they got him. Could you imagine him at third base in Toronto? Go across the infield. Guerrero, Simeon, Bichette, Bryant. Go across the outfield. You got Grichuk, Springer. He's back. Teoscar Hernandez, who was named to the All-Star team. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Could you imagine pitching to those 8 guys in the lineup? Oh, my God. Now, Kevin Biggio has been a disappointment this year, but Toronto's in a great position. Yes, they do need pitching, but if they could buy a third baseman like Kris Bryant for the rest of the season, again, another playoff performer, someone who has experience winning a World Series, can help these young kids develop their game even more and build playoff experience. I hear the same argument a lot of times with the Toronto Blue Jays. Yes, they're young, they're building, they're developing. Have you watched this team play baseball this year? They have arguably the MVP in the American League. They added George Springer. They added Marcus Semien. They paid Hyun-Jin Ryu a couple years ago. Yes, their bullpen needs some help, and I don't trust the back end to make a playoff run, and I do think they'll make more than one move. But, man, have fun pitching to those 8 in that lineup if you end up playing them. Have fun, because I don't know. There's no breaks other than the catcher spot. If Toronto is serious about making a run, and I think what the Yankees and the Rays do will determine a lot, because the Rays are going to make Rays moves. I don't think the Yankees should make a move because I truly don't think they're very good, even though their bats did break out yesterday against Seattle. They seem to always beat Seattle. Good for you. Your bats should break out against the Seattle Mariners. But, Toronto's in a position to buy a third baseman. They have a very deep farm system. They have a very good team that can make a run here in the playoffs. Watch out for them buying a third baseman, because I think that's another team where Kris Bryant would fit in absolutely perfectly. Their veteran additions have been spectacular this year. They could add one there in the corner of their infield. Go get them. I think that'd be a great move for the Toronto Blue Jays. Number 2, this is a team that everyone kind of wrote off, but they're a team that never really has that great of a first half. No, I'm not talking about Oakland. I'm talking about Washington. A couple weeks ago, I'd say, trade Scherzer. Trade any veteran depth pieces you have. Because I didn't think this team was going anywhere. Now, they look like they have a chance to be competitive in this division. They have a very good top man in the rotation there with Max Scherzer. Unfortunately, due to injuries, Kyle Schwarber, who was killing the baseball, is out for an extended period of time. When you look at this lineup, after the top 3, it drops off significantly. Trey Turner, stud. Juan Soto, stud. Josh Bell, thank God he's out of Pittsburgh. But Schwarber was complimenting that well, and they were playing some really good baseball. Now Schwarber's not going to be there. If they're serious about making a potential run here in this division, and again, you can't forget about the team I'm mentioning next, they got to do it. Now, if he goes to Washington, he has the ability to play both a corner outfield and a third base spot. They're both not really strong at either position, so he would help fill both of those roles. Again, he has the playoff experience for a team that wants to win games late in the season. They were a team that was rumored to trade for him the last, I think, 2 off seasons. So there's clearly some interest there. And they need some power. They need some offense. Their offense just is not there right now without Kyle Schwarber there in the middle. Someone's going to disappear in this division. It looks like the Mets are going to keep going. The Phillies, you have no idea what you're getting out of them. The Nationals looked like they weren't going to do much. Now it looks like they have to buy someone at the deadline. And the Braves are a disappointment, but the talent's all there. They could use an arm, but they're just massively underperforming across the board. I think the Nationals are in a spot to buy here. I really do. And I think they'd be nuts if they didn't go after Bryant. Again, they can buy him towards the deadline. He adds that playoff experience. It gives them a little bit of an edge. And it makes them much more competitive in that division with the New York Mets, who I think is the number 1 team going after Kris Bryant. He would play third base because their outfield, Brandon Nimmo back, is actually really nasty. Nimmo's been awesome since he returned from injury for the Mets. I mean, you go Smith, Nimmo, Conforto, and then as a 4th guy, Kevin Pillar. It's a pretty solid 4-man rotation there in the outfield. You look at their third base situation. J.D. Davis is on the 60-day IL. They're using guys like Jonathan Villar, Luis Guillermo, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Jose Peraza at that third base spot. Bryant would be a massive upgrade the second he walks in the door. And again, you want to talk about a team that has one of the deepest lineups in baseball. If they were to add him, Alonso, McNeil, Lindor, Bryant. I just mentioned the outfield. They have James McCann there, the catcher. And, you want to talk about their playoff rotation? They have Stroman and DeGrom. They're towards the top to pitch in those first 2 games. The Mets are nasty. Absolutely freaking nasty. And I still think they're not even fully up to their offensive potential. With Nimmo back at the top of the order, I do think it's going to make a massive difference for this team. It already has made a massive difference for this team. But since Steve Cohen's taken over as the owner of this team, he has fully committed to building a championship roster in New York. He went after and made that huge trade for Francisco Lindor. You want to build a championship team, you need championship players. Guess what Kris Bryant's done with the Cubs? Win a championship. The number 1 team, in my opinion, to add Kris Bryant at the trade deadline is absolutely 100% the New York Mets. And you want to know the other benefit for the Mets? If they get him, the Nationals don't, and the Braves don't, which gives them even more of an advantage to win that division. Watch out for the Mets, because I think they're about to explode after the All-Star break. They'll be even better if they add Kris Bryant at third base. That could be it for this episode of my teams who I think should trade for Kris Bryant. Who do you think should trade for the All-Star in Chicago? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.